Well, good evening, listeners. You're listening to Lament of Hope blog and podcast. I'm here today with Sarah McLeod. It's crazy. She is in New Zealand right now, and so there's like an 18-hour difference or something. So it's crazy. It took me like 10 minutes. I was telling her to figure out the time zones because it was crazy to make sure I was on the right time as her. Um, but most of you will probably know Sarah from the character of Rosie Cotton from Lord of the Rings, which is kind of an iconic role that she stands out for, but she actually owns her own talent management company now. Um, and so I wanted to touch base with her and just ask her some questions about her career. But Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it.
I'm very happy to be here. Hello, all you listeners out there.
So, Sarah, kind of to start out, what drew you to go toward talent management instead of the acting? What do you like better or what do you find more challenging?
The interesting thing for me is I actually never set out to be an actor, and I also didn't set out to be an agent. Both were opportunities that I think must have been my destiny. So I was on the so basically I have two talent agencies now. I have my global voice agency called Big Mouth Voices, and then more recently I've also set up a boutique acting agency called McLeod Management, where I look after a very small number of women. The voiceover agency happened because I was on the books as a voiceover artist, and at that time had been a solo mum for 6 years, and I was relief teaching, I was making Sawyer candles, I was doing
Wow.
voiceovers, I was acting, I was teaching acting as well. So I had lots and lots of part-time jobs. And I just literally remember one day I just looked to the skies and I just said, universe, can I please just have one job instead of juggling six? And the
Yeah.
next day, the owner, who then owned Big Mouth Voices, rang me and just asked me if I would come and work with him. So I worked part-time. And then after a month, he went, actually, I've been trialing you because I want to sell Big Mouth and it's my little baby. And I just
Mm.
needed to make sure it to someone who was really going to nurture and look after all the voices. And I was like, Ian, I'm a solo mum with no savings. How am I going to buy a business? But he let me, sorry, I'm just going to turn this phone off and then put that into work mode. And I just said to him, I can't do it. But he's like, no, we can make this work. And so he fully supported me. And that's
Wow.
how I came to be a voice agent.
Do you like it?
I love it. I love it because I'm a real mum and I'm a
Mm.
real nurturer. Like nurture's my word for why I am here. I love nurturing my family, my home, my children, my animals, and for me, being a talent agent carries on in that strain of nurture. So I nurture all my
Mm.
voices. I'm not just about organization and quoting and putting this person in touch with this person and making sure it all schedules. I love it because I'm also nurturing everybody, helping everybody be their best, making sure clients are really being listened to, that voices are being listened to. And then now that
Mm.
I've got bigger and I have staff, that's been like my biggest learning curve now, is also like managing the dynamics of having other people responsible for what normally I have done by myself.
Yeah.
And
Do
that's been a
you,
really big learning curve.
I was gonna say, do you enjoy it more than the acting that you used to do?
No, I think I love acting more
Okay.
because, as well as nurture, I love things that are heartfelt. And what I love about acting is the fact that it swells my heart with joy or sadness or whatever the emotions are. So I love feeling big feelings. And as a talent agent, I get a lot of a lot of goodness by helping others. But I guess my heart doesn't swell on a daily basis as it does when you're acting on a daily
Yeah.
basis. Like I'll still business is more admin, as opposed
Yeah.
to emotion. Um,
Hmm.
but I think, and maybe that's why I connect with the nurture aspect of being an agent, because that's what does give my heart, lets my heart sing, because I'm dealing with people, and I'm if they are feeling really happy about something they've achieved, I can then share that with them. Whereas with acting, you're just in that really fortunate, beautiful position of, you know, exercising the heart and the emotion connection on
Yeah.
a daily basis, which is a really, that's why, I mean, I think that's why actors love acting.
Well, I was gonna say the acting though is probably not as reliable, right? Like
No,
income wise as it would be to do talent management.
no, 100%. So I think that, you know, even when I was acting, obviously when I did Lord of the Rings, and then I had like lots and lots of little bits and pieces and the odd good commercial that would come in. And then I had a year on Shortland Street, which is a local sort of soap opera that's made here in New Zealand. Um, I always managed to make, I was lucky that I could always make a living out of acting. But I think New Zealand is small. We're not
Yeah.
making as many shows as Australia or the US, or over in the UK. And I definitely found that once I hit 40, there was definitely not as much acting work available for me,
Hmm.
which was the same time that I ended up becoming the owner of Big Mouth Voices. So I feel like the universe, without me even having to make any decisions, just aligned with what was best for me in my life. Um, and so being a voiceover agent was a good business decision.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why I now really love having McLeod Management is, and the reason, and the fact that I've made the decision to only represent women, is now that lets my heart sing again, because I'm really hands-on with my actresses, doing the self-tapes with them, you know, being their reader, being behind the camera as they're doing their auditions, giving them direction. So I love that it's sort of come around into a full circle now, that I
Yeah.
can amalgamate both my love of acting, my experience as an agent, to now be both running a business of Big Mouth Voices and then also the lovely little boutique McLeod Management.
Well, I was gonna say, because now you're pronouncing your last name McLeod.
Oh yeah,
Forgive me, I messed it up at the beginning. It's not
that's all right.
McLeod, it's McLeod. Okay.
Yeah, McLeod. Yeah.
Well, for you, how is it balancing? Because you mentioned being a single mom. Are you still a single mom?
No, so I repartnered to a lovely man
Okay.
who's a teacher.
Okay.
And we've had two more children together. So Maisie and Lola were the ones that I had when I was in Lord of the Rings. And Maisie's the one that plays baby Frodo in the final scene of the films, and she's now nearly 25. And then after being the solo mum, I met a new partner, and we've had two more children together, Amelie and Nina. So my children go from the age of 9 through to 20.
Wow. For
So I feel like I've been
you,
a mum forever.
yeah. Well, how have you balanced owning your own businesses and being a mom? Because do you ever feel like one or the other is getting more attention?
My children will probably say there are times when they'll be like, Mum, why are you always on your phone? Or Mum, why are you always on your computer? Um, but I do actually think I have found a really good balance, because I say to my children, yeah, but I drop you off at school every day. I pick you up from school every day. I take you to all of your activities, because I'm self-employed and I choose now to work from home. So I think that I've actually created a lifestyle where I'm a really great hands-on mum,
Yeah.
and also being able to work. And the fact that my husband's a teacher is brilliant, because it means that he always gets the school holidays off.
Yeah.
So we really get to have good family time. Um, and you might laugh, in fact, you probably will, but we love watching TV shows and films together as a family. And
Yeah.
during the pandemic, that was one of the things that we just really connected with as a family, watching all the trilogies of the various films. And so now in the evenings, because I often still have work coming in, but I'll be in the lounge working on my computer while we're watching a TV show. Um, and and at the moment we're watching Ghost Whisperer. And my husband always cries in all the romantic scenes, which is hilarious because the kids love it. like, oh, Papa's crying again. Um, he probably should have been an actor, actually. He's very in touch with his emotions. But for me, I kind of feel like we're still all there together as a family. And even though I might still be like reconciling invoices or something like that, it's multitasking, but I'm still there with my family.
Yeah. What do you think there was a time I'm thinking even especially when you were a single mom that was
Mm.
nearly impossible to do, like to be present while at the same time you're worrying about finances, you're worrying about providing
Yeah.
because you're taking on all of the responsibilities that two people would have. Um,
Yeah.
was that how did you find that season particularly challenging?
It definitely was very difficult. And
Yeah.
because my big girls were only 3 and 6 at the time. Um, so it was tough. And so I remember there were like the first year, there were lots of tears. And my parents were living overseas at the time. So I didn't really get a lot of support because they weren't in New Zealand. Um, but I think I'm just very, very stoic and very
Mm,
capable. So once I sort of got over the emotion of the breakup, I just soldiered on. Um, I do remember after about 6 months, this was totally my saving grace. I discovered Buddhism
mm-hmm.
and the daily practice of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is all about the fact that you already have it all within you. So you don't need to grasp at things from outside of yourself. You actually are fully capable within yourself. And it's a really beautiful Buddhist practice that helped me become strong within myself
Mm-hmm.
because you're connecting with that every day.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that probably was what got me through because it's also then connecting with a whole lot of like-minded people and you're going to meetings and things. Um,
How were you exposed
and
to it?
a friend of mine who's also one of my actors. So it was through another actor. A lot of
Okay.
actors do the practice of Nichiren Daishonen's Buddhism. Um, Tina Turner, she was a practitioner, and Orlando Bloom, he's still a practitioner of Nichiren Daishonen's Buddhism. And there's just like it's like so in New Zealand, there's quite a few actors that get together and do the old chanting of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and supporting one another.
Hmm.
Um, and there's really good studies as well in terms of you know recognizing when things are hard but knowing
Yeah.
you're only going to get through it and that you're going to learn something great from that experience. So I think once I got over the initial emotion, I just got down to it. I kept the house, had lots and lots of part-time jobs to pay the mortgage. Did relief teaching because then it meant that I could be once again working within school hours but being able to pick my kids up.
Yeah.
um, So I think I've done pretty well being there for my kids through it all.
Yeah, I mean
And
it sounds like you carried a lot for quite some time.
yeah, yeah, and I definitely, I've been through a lot. I've had postnatal depression. I've had a really bad birth with my last daughter, so I had PTSD
Hmm.
quite badly. But I do feel like in life, that's then given me a lot of empathy for others that are going through difficult times.
Well,
Which
I was gonna say, because your management, you mentioned that the clientele are women. Is it
yeah,
specifically women for a reason?
Yeah, it is definitely specifically women for a reason because I think as women, we go through so much and I
Yeah.
think we have to navigate so much. And whether it's, puberty, pregnancy, not being able to get miscarriages, choosing not to have children, and then menopause, because obviously I'm in my 50s now, so I'm going through that whole menopausal journey. It's intense, like what we have to go through as women as we ride the waves of our hormones. I feel so strongly that it's a really, really um, tumultuous ride. So
Yeah.
my decision for representing only women was to sort of to like hug all the women and go, I've been there, I've been through it.
Hmm.
I'm here to support you as you go on this journey as well.
Do you think the acting industry, maybe specifically in New Zealand, since that's where you're based, do you think it's friendly to women in general? or only a certain age group, or how does that work for women in the industry there?
What I missed one of the words. Friendly, did you say, towards women?
Yeah, like in New Zealand, in the industry there, are do you think that women are valued for their acting, or they're
Hmm.
um pretty advanced in New Zealand with accommodating and allowing roles for women, or is it similar to the US? Because here you kind of age out at a certain point where the roles are extremely limited. Um, and
I
obviously
don't,
body image, all that's very important.
yeah, I don't, I think probably I would admit, I mean, I haven't done lots of research into this, but my instincts tell me that it's a lot harder in the US
Hmm,
once you get
okay.
older. My understanding is that, for example, in Ireland, they embrace older women, and there's a lot more roles for women over in Ireland.
Hmm,
Um, I think from like so obviously now that I'm an agent and I see the casting briefs that come through, I definitely think there are more roles for men than there are for women.
hmm.
But I do see nice, interesting roles coming through the New Zealand and the Australian casting briefs for women. Um, I don't think there's enough roles to fully employ any female actors that
Yeah.
are over a particular age. And I think that's also why now I've kind of stepped back from acting as well, because, I love being a mum. I love owning Big Mouth and being, business minded and the expansion we're doing for that. I'm loving being an agent. And so therefore I can't, and I'm really lucky as an actress in that I actually feel really fulfilled with what I've done in my acting career. I haven't done huge amounts, but I have loved what I have done. So I kind of feel like I give my blessing to the ones who are in their 50s and are still really, passionate about it and wanting to get those roles. And great, I can't wait to see you in the next project.
I was gonna ask because you were talking about your career there. Lord of the Rings, was that kind of the start of it, or had you done some things before then?
I hadn't done anything significant other than Forgotten Silver. So Forgotten Silver, I don't know if you know about Forgotten Silver, but it's definitely worth Googling. It was a mockumentary that was with Peter Jackson and
Okay.
Costa Boats as the co-directors. And it was all about the discovery of the discovery and the story of a New Zealand filmmaker called Colin Mackenzie.
Hmm.
And that was probably my first ever film acting role. So from that and then on to Lord of the Rings were pretty much my first and my second acting roles ever. So I was quite lucky that those were the two. Yeah, that was sort of like the beginning of my acting career.
I wanted to ask you because for Lord of the Rings, a lot of the actors that were in Lord of the Rings, like it kind of launched their careers even more. Um,
Mm,
did you find because you didn't become as big a name acting wise, like now you have your management company,
mm,
and you did do some more acting after that, but you weren't really in the limelight for very long.
mm, mm.
Um, was that hard for you, or was it, you were kind of like, that was just a great opportunity to take part in. I'm, super excited about it, and it didn't really bother you. Or for you, were you hoping that more was going to kind of jumpstart from that, or?
I definitely didn't think that it was going to be the jump start for my Hollywood acting career. Um, and I think that's because Lord of the Rings was really the beginning of the whole, you know, Tinseltown film industry for New Zealand. We hadn't really done anything really that was as big as that before. Um, I do remember one of the New Line producers speaking with me at the wrap party, and he was like, "Oh, we should get you a 3-film deal. Come over to LA and let's see what we can get for you." So there was a little minuscule moment of thinking that, oh, maybe I actually could do more. Maybe I could get more acting work. And I did go to LA, but I actually really hated it. I'd left my family behind. I felt really lonely. I felt really small. Um, it didn't feel like it was the right place where my heart wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I just came back to New Zealand and I was like, oh, that's okay. I'm actually okay not doing LA. I think also I kind of all the time was just like, my role wasn't really that big. Maybe there was a little
It's
bit of like,
true.
I'm not really that big a potential Hollywood actor. It's all just like a bit pretend. Um, which I also was totally fine with. I'm kind of pleased that I went. Like, it was good to have had that experience. Um, but I don't think, probably because I already had Maisie, I don't think I really wanted to fully launch myself into that being my life.
Yeah.
I liked being back in New Zealand more, I think, than I wanted to be in LA. But what I think's happened over the years is, it wasn't a huge role in the films, but it meant so much to so many people. And maybe that's also why I feel so fulfilled as an actress, because I was lucky enough to get cast in a role that's had longevity, that's meant so
Yeah.
much to so many people. And I get to meet them. So I go to on the red carpet tours, and I'm often a guest at their dinners, and I'm meeting 26-year-olds that have gone through high school watching it every single summer holidays together when throughout their high school year, then they've gone on to university, but whenever they get back together again, they always spend New Year's Eve and they watch all the trilogy together.
Yeah.
So many people that do that. Or families that have watched it every single Christmas, and then finally, as a graduation present for their sons, they've brought them over to New Zealand for the red carpet tour, or being invited to Hobbiton for International Hobbit Day, or surprising guests by being behind the Green Dragon, dressed up as Rosie and serving drinks from behind the Green Dragon. And everybody is just having such a great time. And I love doing that because it just, it adds to everybody's experience
Yeah.
to see the person who played Rosie Cotton. And I'm so grateful for every single fan that it gives me like a really great feeling in my heart and appreciation for having been able to play Rosie, and then being able to meet all these people and add something special to their day,
Yeah.
or to
No,
their
that's
memories.
true. Well, I was gonna say she's kind of a nurturing character in her own silent way. Like she doesn't say much, but she's definitely a very nurturing character, even in the books.
Yeah, and that's what I feel every time I go to Hobbiton. Like, Hobbiton, the movie set is absolutely incredible. I got invited there to look into the Hobbit holes and how they've made the interiors now accessible. And I actually cried because I feel so much like Rosie when I'm back there. And I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. I'm home again. And I think also and obviously this is sort of like, what the creation of the Hobbits were in J.R. Tolkien's books. Um, in this time of chaos in the world, where there's so much pain, there's so much suffering, there's so much aggression, there's so much anger, there's so much upset, there's so much, inequality, to be able to connect with the beauty of hobbits and
Yeah.
what they exemplify, with it being love and family and food and dance and music and joy. um, I am so grateful to have been able to play a hobbit that can exemplify the good aspects of humanity.
Hmm.
And I feel like, because of having had that experience of playing Rosie and staying connected with that experience by going to these events, it really has probably, I would say, in part, um, added to who I am now as Sarah,
Hmm.
because I stay connected with, my animals, I'm a creature of comfort. I've had 4 children. I've got 2 cats, 3 dogs. I foster kittens. So I am a bit hobbity.
Well, do your kids like it?
Yeah, they they they've all watched the films. It's pretty cool for Maisie to have played baby Frodo,
Yeah,
and
she gets
both,
to see that.
yeah. And it's always a nice sort of like thing to add into the conversation, like, oh yeah, I was baby Frodo. So I think she likes doing that at parties. She lives over in Edinburgh now. And just I think being involved in the film industry for Maisie and Lola, because of course they were my children when I was younger, so they used to be on set with me all the time, and they used to get cast in quite a few commercials and TV shows and movies over here. um so it was just a really integral part of their lives. And then for Amelie and Nina, I obviously wasn't acting as much when they were young. And it was during the pandemic that we watched Lord of the Rings, and we just watched all the Harry Potter movies as well. And we were like, okay, we think you won't get too scared by the orcs. Let's sit down and watch Lord of the Rings. And they knew that I played Rosie Cotton, but they'd never really seen me playing Rosie Cotton. And I always remember Amelie watching it, and that first scene, I think it might have been at the Green Dragon, or maybe it must have been at the end of the films actually. And she just sort of looked at me and she went, Mum, your role's not as big as Hermione. So she wasn't as impressed.
Did
So
you
yes,
have,
I always.
what do you think's your favorite part from Lord of the Rings? Do you have a favorite part?
There are two favorite parts. I mean, whenever I sort of hear the music, it still just evokes so much of those feelings within me. But there's that part when Sam, that makes me cry, when Sam's climbing up the mountain. He's like, if ever I had have married anyone, I would have married Rosie. That always makes me cry. And then that's balanced with when he finally comes back, like just the filming of that scene when he comes back and he's like, well, I'm back.
Yeah.
I just so vividly remember filming that scene. It was a lovely scene to film. And I just think it's a really beautiful scene to watch in the movies. Just
Yeah.
so heartfelt and real.
Well, it's
So,
so peaceful. It's just, yeah, because it's interesting because the ending is sad in some ways, but at the same time, it settles really well on your heart.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I was for you're mentioning being a mom and how much you love that. What do you think? How has motherhood grown you? Like as a woman, do you think it's enhanced your womanhood, or do you find that it's detracted from it? I mean, what has motherhood done for you in your own life?
Mm. I really strongly feel like I have always strived to be a really good mum. Um, and I think none of us are going to be perfect mums because we're human and
Yeah.
relationships are filled with challenges. Um, but for me, I definitely feel like it's made me focus on slowing down.
Hmm.
It's made me focus on the comfort of physical touch and hugs. I I think I like to think of myself as the kind of mum who just fully embraces her girls, and every morning they come in and they give me a kiss and a hug and tell me that they love me and I tell them that I love them. So the capacity for love, definitely, I think is something that motherhood has given me, a huge capacity for love. Yeah, slowing down and trying to self-reflect on what the parts of myself are that aren't conducive to thinking about myself in a positive way,
Hmm.
recognizing that, and therefore trying to share that with my children. Because I think the world we live in is a really hard world. I think it's really fast paced. I think it's full of judgment and full of, therefore, the path towards self criticism.
Hmm.
And I try really hard as a mum not to do that. And I therefore think I do a pretty good job of then sharing with my children about not being self-critical, not being judgmental, not comparing themselves to others, but just acknowledging that everybody's on their own individual journey.
Yeah.
And the greatest value comes from, everybody's striving to be their best self rather than, living in a world of comparison.
What do you did you struggle at all with comparison when you were in the acting world? Or even now with talent management, do you find it easy to compare or think you could be better at something?
Um, I mean, I'm definitely a high achiever. So I don't tend to compare myself negatively with others. I think I've got a pretty good hold on striving to be my best, and that's how I measure myself. So I don't really think about whether or not I'm better or worse than another voice agent, or
Hmm.
better or worse than another acting agent, or better and worse than another actor, or another person, or another parent. Um, because I like to believe that, there's enough work to go around for everybody. If I just keep being my best, then I'll get my best. And I think because that's my approach, then I am successful,
Yeah.
because people recognize that I'm not, I have lots of integrity. I still get hurt and I still cry, like, even like in my 50s, I can get a producer that can be a little bit mean one day and make me cry. I think that's just because I'm really human.
Yeah.
And I don't put on a face or try to be anything that I'm not. I don't think I
Mm.
do.
Do
Mm.
you, when you were talking about being self-critical, do you find that there's an area that it's hard for you not to be self-critical about yourself in some way? Is there a specific area that you're continuing to grow in to not criticize about yourself?
Definitely the body.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely. Like I look in the mirror and I think I look beautiful, I feel beautiful, but if I look down, it's that classic thing. I'm like, oh my God, I've put on so much weight. I wish I was skinnier. Or every time, like I must have that thought 20 times a day. Maybe not that much anymore, but that's society. Like if I'm watching TV, I'll always be thinking, oh, I wish I was as skinny as them. Or if someone's walking down the street and they look really skinny, I'll be like, oh, I wish I was as skinny as them. But then I just have to challenge that within myself to think the important thing is to be healthy.
Yeah.
And if I'm getting bigger, then I just think about it. There's more of me to love. And I know that the more of me there is and the softer I am, the better cuddles I give. And sometimes, like recently, I was in a department store and was just waiting to go into the waiting room to try on some clothes. And the woman, so like trying on some clothes, she just sort of said something like, "Oh, I look awful in that. I'm so fat." And I actually looked at her and I said, "No, there's just more of you to love." So as I'm on that journey, I actually also try to share it with others.
What did she say? Did she smile?
She did smile. She did smile. She sort of, I think she was a bit surprised that I was
Yeah,
talking out
probably.
loud. Um, but no, she did smile. And then I heard her talking to me. She kind of carried on as she was talking to the person that she was with. And she's like, oh yeah, that's actually quite a good comment, isn't it? Because I think she recognized that she shouldn't have been doing that self-judgment, self-critical talk on herself.
Yeah.
But we all do.
Do you, for your kids, what do you think they struggle with the most when it comes to being self-critical? Because now I think young people, at least I feel like for my generation, we have a very hard, there's a lot of expectations, there's a lot of choices, there's a lot of um struggles that I think are just heightened more now than they
Mm,
were before. Um,
mm.
and so for your children, as you've seen them grown, like what have you find have been like the most challenging thing for them as they're growing up?
It's quite good because I've got kids who are 9, even 21 and nearly 25. So I've been through lots of different stages of social media.
Mm,
And like the Maisie, when she was at intermediate, which is sort of like 11, 12-year-olds, it was all texting. But then when Lola started, that was the start of Snapchat and Instagram. And so
yeah,
she was definitely of a generation where it was much more impacted by social media.
yeah,
And so because of that, I've been able to recognize with Emily and Nina to be careful around that. So if their phones are like dinging all the time with notifications, I'm like, girls, airplane mode. I don't want to hear it. You know, decompress, because otherwise you're just like, oh, I need to reply. I need to reply. Who's that? What's that? Ding, ding, ding.
yeah,
So I'm really big on, yeah, notifications off. because otherwise you just get into a massive sense of overwhelm.
Yeah.
They know that they're not allowed Snapchat, Instagram, or Facebook. So I think that because of my experience, second time around with these girls, I'm way better equipped to monitor what they're doing, but also
Yeah.
to teach them why we're saying no.
Yeah.
So they understand. So I feel like they understand it rather than fighting it. So they're really good with their devices.
Hmm.
They know why they don't have Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, and they just accept it rather than trying to fight it.
Well, that must be hard for you too, because you probably get notifications all the time.
Well, apart from the two that I was getting at the beginning of this phone call, but the older I get and the more time I've had in this business, I have my phone in do not disturb all the time
Hmm.
because I don't want to get, because there was a time when every single ding I'd get a shot of, you know, adrenaline through my body. And I've had so much adrenaline that I'm like, no, I don't want to
It's
connect
all
with that
gone.
jolt of, I don't want to go there anymore. So
Yeah.
I actually have to admit I have it in do not disturb a lot of the time. And then it might be that every couple of hours I'll be like, oh, what, or every hour or so, like what phone calls have I missed? What's important? What do I actually need to take action on? Because if I don't have it on do not disturb, I'll be getting, 5 phone calls every hour, and
Yeah.
that's not sustainable.
No. Yeah, no, it's it's even not being, an agent, not being famous, you still can
Mm,
get, 20 messages or whatever in
mm.
an hour, and it's like it is very
Or
overwhelming.
100.
Yeah, I understand that adrenaline rush. It's because that you got it right away. Like there's this urgency to respond. Um,
Yeah.
well, Sarah, kind of to end our time, because I appreciate your time. I know you're busy. Um, what would you like to see if there was one thing you could see change about the world in your lifetime? Because I know there's tons of stuff, but in your lifetime, something that either you think could change in your lifetime or you really want to change, what do you think you'd pick?
Mm. I often ask myself, and it is conversations we have, actually, I'm starting to cry because I'm just like, oh, I wish the world was a better place. I just wish everybody was kind. I think if everybody was kind and not judgmental and just kind and nice to each other, then I think the world would be a better place.
What do you
That's
think
sort of
kindness should look like exactly?
kind. So definitely not being judgmental and comparative, like too much comparison. Um, I'd love, I'd love monetary equality.
Hmm.
So I would love so that I can't stand that the lack of money stops so many people from doing what they would actually want to do. So I would love there to be like a universal equality of the distribution of money and food and clothing and housing. I know that's like a pipe dream, but I would love to see that. Um, I'd love, I would love everybody to have the ability to really clearly communicate, and then for the other humans that they're talking to have the skill to also hear what is being said.
Yeah.
Because I think so often someone says one thing and the other person thinks they're saying something else. So my wish would be for kindness, equality, and just everybody to have the really good skill of communication.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that would be great. I would
It
love
would
that.
solve it
Yeah,
would solve a lot of a lot
it
of
would
the
solve
world's
a ton of
problems.
problems. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. And it's so neat for me too to meet an agent who has such a nurturing and empathetic personality. Because I mean, I'm granted I have not met a lot, so I don't want to put a blank statement, but you often they're very curt, probably because they're really busy, but it's such a
Mm.
gift to be able to meet someone who can take a minute and take the time to just talk about life and be present.
Mm. Oh no, I love sharing my time on this earth and the wisdom that I have gained through my experiences. I like sharing that with others, and I have a full appreciation for, you know, what everybody else is out there doing. So thank you for taking the time to speak with me and allow me to speak as well.
You're welcome. Well, listeners, you'll see I'll have a link to Sarah's
Mm.
management so you can take a look at the work she's doing and the voice actor she represents. But Sarah, thank you again for your time.
My pleasure, everybody. You have a great rest of your day and life.